welcome to Dustin's Kaleidoscope. I'm Dustin. Today I am here with Kathryn Livingston, who is a Kundalini yoga teacher. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I know a little bit about Kundalini yoga, just very little. I practice another form, but the reason I wanted you on here today was that I don't know anything, and I know that there are other people who are interested in yoga and the different forms, and I wanted you to explain. So first of all, what is Kundalini yoga?
Okay. Well, Kundalini yoga is a technology. It's a style of yoga. As you know, there are many different styles. And Kundalini yoga is a little different because it incorporates all kinds of different things about yoga. In a typical Kundalini yoga class, you would have some chanting or mantra. You would have some pranayama or breathing exercises. You would also have the asana or the poses. We have a lot of music in Kundalini yoga usually, and we use the drishti or eye focus, and we use mudras or hand positions, and we weave all of these things in. I may even be missing one of the things, but we weave all of these different aspects into a single class. And it's also a spiritual practice, because in Kundalini yoga we don't have our eyes open. We close our eyes for most of the practice.
Oh, interesting.
Unless the teacher is demoing, then you can look around and no one's going to say anything if you open your eyes. But we try to really go within and really tap into our inner soul and listen to the voice within. So it's a little different sort of a practice.
And so how long have you been practicing Kundalini yoga, and how long have you been a teacher?
Okay, well, I've been practicing Kundalini yoga for about 5 years, and I've been a teacher for about a year.
Okay.
And before that, I practiced other styles of yoga for another 5 years.
And so why did you turn to this style of yoga?
Okay. Well, I started with vinyasa yoga, and I absolutely love the flowing vinyasa style. And then I went to Iyengar yoga, which I also love and still practice, which is very alignment oriented and very precise and all about, the body and the postures. And I loved all of that. But I always felt that just that something was a little bit missing, and I wasn't quite sure what it was. And one day, actually my physician mentioned to me that she had a Kundalini yoga instructor teaching in her health center at her office. And she asked me if I would like to come. So I said, well, I don't really have any interest in that, but I'll give it a try. I'm open to new things. So I went, and from the very first class, I was just hooked.
Really?
It was just such a beautiful spiritual practice, and also challenging. It could be very challenging, depending on the exercise set that you're doing on a particular class. But I just loved it right away, and also the music grabbed me, and I just loved the practice. I still do the other practices. I still do my vinyasa and my Iyengar as well.
And what was the main difference between what you were doing before and Kundalini? Like, what made you gravitate toward that particular style?
I think the Kundalini yoga really allowed me to go within in just a really fast way. It's just as soon as you walk into a Kundalini yoga studio, you just feel this presence of a kind of a sacred feeling, and you just go into that. And then the class starts with chanting and mantra, and you do a breathing exercise sometimes, and it just, I don't know, it just attracted me right away. It just drew me in.
Okay. And I know along with doing the yoga that part of your journey was writing a book. Mm-hmm. So we have your book here, and it is Yin Yang Yogini. Mm-hmm. And can you explain what the book is about, what motivated you to write the book, and how it relates to yoga?
Definitely. Yoga changed my life so dramatically that I really felt I needed to write a book about it.
Oh, really?
I've been a writer my whole life. I've written for magazines and newspapers, and I've co-written books about parenting, and I always wanted to write a memoir, something that really touched people since I was a little girl, but I never really knew what it would be about. And when I went to my first yoga class, It was actually inspired by a friend of mine who told me I needed to go see a therapist. And the reason why was because I was so anxious my whole life and so nervous, and I had been brought up in a very fearful environment where my parents were wonderful, loving people, but they protected me so much and were so afraid that something bad would happen that they sort of instilled that fear in me.
I see.
So when I became a mother, I saw that I was passing that same sort of fear on to my 3 children. I have 3 sons. And when my son was 15, my middle son, he came home and said he wanted to go study in Oxford for a summer.
Okay.
And I thought, oh my goodness, no, you can't possibly get on an airplane and go at 15 alone. But then a friend of mine said, you know, you really need to take care of this fear that you have. So I went to a therapist, and she said you could either take some pills, some medication, or you could try yoga. And I said, okay, I'll try the yoga. So I went to my first yoga class, and there was a wonderful teacher there, a young woman, who just guided me along the path. And I saw that the more I practiced yoga, the less fearful I was, the less afraid I was, the more trusting I became. And I actually just changed totally. I mean, people that know me now, that knew me then, said it seems as if I'm a different person.
Really?
Because I'm so much calmer than I was. And obviously my son went to England. Everything turned out great. And so while I was going through the yoga classes, I knew that something big was happening that I wanted to share with others. So I started journaling about it. And I would just come home and journal after every class. And I would write about, you know, what the teacher was saying and what changes were happening in me and things that were going on in my life. And that book, that journal turned into that book. And in the second year of my practice, I actually was diagnosed with breast cancer. So the practice became even more important to me and even more essential because of the fear that I was facing, you know, in having cancer. The yoga just was so grounding for me, and it just gave me that trust and the strength and the courage to face the whole process and get through it, you know, a stronger person than I was before.
Do you think you would have had that resolve to just go forward and just meet whatever happened, like as far as the cancer, if you hadn't had yoga, regardless of the style, in your, just if you hadn't had that as part of your...
Absolutely not, because, you know, before the yoga, every little challenge that came my way, I'd be so disheartened, I'd be so afraid, you know. I would always think the worst was going to happen. And yoga, like, turned me around, like, 360. It was like now, instead of always thinking the worst would happen, I would think positively that the best would happen, that I would get through it, you know, that I would be a survivor. And I totally attribute it to the yoga.
And so the book is about, is it, part of it, is it about your journey, you know, doing yoga during, while having cancer and beyond that, or is it a little bit?
It's
like
sort of
the
first year of the book. It goes through 2 years. The first year of the book is just my introduction to yoga,
Okay.
and it's sort of the story of how of my son and my other 2 sons too, and how my family life is, and then how I start doing yoga and how I see myself changing. And then the second part of it is more about the breast cancer experience. So
Okay.
I really wanted to convey to people that yoga is not just about asana or poses. It's really so much more.
Okay.
You know.
We have, excuse me, we have a few more minutes here, and I know that during the second half of the show, we're going to actually pull out our mats and do a few of the poses. But you mentioned during this segment that you talked a little bit about mantras and just some of the different segments. What are those? Like you said, the mantra, there are different segments that are part of Kundalini.
Right. In Kundalini yoga, we use what we call the sound current a lot, and it's just it's sound. It's a mantra. Their words. Actually, in Kundalini yoga, the words are in a language called Gurmukhi, which is from India. It's like, like you've heard of Sanskrit words.
Sure.
It's like maybe instead of Om, we would use the word Ong. We use some different words that you might not be familiar with. And we open every class with a mantra, Ong Namo Gurudev Namo, which means I honor or I bow to the infinite wisdom, I bow to the teacher within my own heart. And that opens every Kundalini yoga class. We say it 3 times together.
Okay, so it's consistent. It's not like there's a different mantra for each class.
Well, there are also different mantras. Like that would be the opening mantra.
Oh,
and then
okay.
at the end of the class, we might do a different mantra every class. And one mantra could be for courage, one could be for protection, one could be, for something else, whatever that mantra is for. We would chant it at the end of a class. And we could chant for as long as 11 minutes or longer. It's just, a repetitive sound current that when it's like a meditation, because as you say the words, you go into that inner space and you go into that vibration. It's very different. And the only way really, like I can talk about it, but the best way really is to do it and to go to a class.
Okay.
And try it out, because it's sort of, you need to experience it.
And are there thinking of going to classes, are there any limitations on who can do this particular style of yoga? Like, do you have to be extremely flexible? Can children do it? Do you, like you said, you started off by doing other styles and then you transitioned into this style.
Right.
Is there a prereq, basically?
Okay, well, I really feel that anyone can do Kundalini yoga. And actually, I just wrote an article about this. And what I said is, if you're alive, you are breathing. And if you are breathing, you can do yoga, especially Kundalini yoga. And the reason why is because yoga, as I said before, it's not just standing on your head. You can do yoga just sitting in a room and going within, putting your hands in Gyan Mudra and just going within. And so I really think anyone could do yoga. Of course, people have physical limitations when it comes to asana. So if you have something wrong with your knee or your back or something, of course you would have to modify. You would ask your doctor, of course, if you could do a Kundalini yoga or another kind of yoga class. And then you talk to your teacher about modifying some of the things. And you'd also listen to your own body. Because I always say in every class, something that one of my teachers taught me is that we don't live in another person's body. We live in our own body. So if you are looking around the room and you see that everyone is doing handstand or wheel or something, but your back is hurting, then you don't do that. You just do something, less challenging physically.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a break right now. We're going to come back, and you're going to show me how to do some of these poses. So
Okay.
This is Dustin's Kaleidoscope, and we'll be back in a second.
Local government, local educational institutions, and local community members all use cable access TV to communicate their message. They depend upon it as an affordable means of outreach. Public educational and government access television empowers local government agencies, individuals, and groups to use the media to speak directly to their constituents in a more direct and cost-effective way. Make sure everyone has a voice. Support your local PEG channels.
Hi, and welcome back to Dustin's Kaleidoscope. I am Dustin, and I am here with Kathryn Livingston, who is a Kundalini yoga teacher and author. She is the author of Yin, Yang, Yogini. And before we start, as you notice, we're on the ground now with our mats. Before we begin a mini practice, can you sum up your book?
Sure. It's really a book for anyone who's been facing anxiety in their lives or who's had to deal with a serious issue like cancer. But it's also a fun book about motherhood and marriage and friendship. It's not just a serious, scary book. It's really a fun book, about being a woman and, facing the challenges that we face.
And so it's appropriate for anybody who's interested in yoga, but with all of the other things that you have just mentioned.
Exactly.
And where can people find your book?
You can get it on Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com, or you can ask your bookstore to order it for you.
And can you tell us the title once again?
Yin Yang Yogini.
Okay, great. So now we're going to start. And can you lead us through what would be not typical, because you said every Kundalini practice is different,
Right.
but can you
I'll
take
give
us
you a
through?
sampling.
Yeah, please.
Yes, every class is a little bit different because there are literally thousands of kriyas or exercises, exercise sets that teachers can choose from. But there are certain practices that are quite common.
Okay.
And the first thing that we do at every class is we do something called tuning in with the Adi mantra. Adi means first.
Okay.
And the way we tune in is we say Ong Namo Gurudev Namo together 3 times.
Okay.
And this means I honor or I bow to the infinite divine wisdom. I honor the teacher within my own heart.
Okay.
So we bring the hands
All
to the
right.
heart center and we close our eyes
Okay.
and we take a deep breath and we chant together. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. And inhale. And exhale, and just let your hands come down and open your eyes.
All right.
And that's how we tune in to every Kundalini yoga class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So where would we go from here? Now that
So from there, we would do some warm-up exercises. So I'll show you a few warm-ups that you could find at a class. And sometimes these warm-ups are also incorporated into the kriyas. So it would be something that you would find at a Kundalini yoga class.
And where can people find out where you teach? Where do you teach?
Okay, I teach at Aquarian Yoga Center in Montclair.
Okay.
And there is also a branch in Westfield.
Okay.
So aquarianyogacenter.com will lead you to any information that you need to know about Kundalini Yoga.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do something called spinal flex.
Okay.
And in Kundalini Yoga, the spine, keeping the spine flexible is very important because the yogis believe that we measure our age not by the years, but by the flexibility of the spine, which is
Okay.
good news for, people that do yoga and that want to do yoga.
Bad news for everybody.
So we're going to just hold on to our shin and ankle here.
Okay.
And what we want to do is on the inhale, bring the chest forward so the head stays stationary.
Okay.
And on the exhale, you kind of flex back. So it's inhaling, exhaling. And you close your eyes. In Kundalini Yoga, we practice with our eyes closed.
Okay.
And you're inhaling and exhaling powerfully as you flex your spine forward and backwards.
I hope it's acceptable to smile and laugh.
And it's perfectly acceptable to smile and laugh.
And one thing I did notice is that you have on white clothing. Is there any reason that you would have chosen white? And you also have on a headscarf as
Yes. We can stop for a moment.
well. Oh, okay.
So we usually wear white, although it's not a requirement. You can come in any color you like. But we wear white because it expands the aura. And we have an electromagnetic field around us that can, vibrate out and expand. So white is supposed to do that.
Okay.
And we cover the head. It's just part of the lineage of Kundalini Yoga.
Oh, okay.
And it is said to help contain the energy because a lot of energy rises as we're doing these exercises, and there's a lot of powerful breathing that goes on. And Kundalini is actually the creative energy that's within every person, the creative force, and that kind of rises up as we do our practice.
Okay.
Okay, so the next exercise we're going to do is we're going to put our hands up here on our shoulders with the thumbs behind and the forefingers down, and then we're going to we're going to be using the spine. We're going to inhale left and exhale right. with powerful breathing through the nose.
Now, are you always breathing through the nose during
We
Kundalini yoga?
almost always breathe through the nose only unless it's otherwise specified.
Okay.
We'll come to the center and just relax.
Okay.
You know, during a regular class, we would do this for maybe 1 to 3 minutes,
Oh, okay.
each
Okay.
part of the exercise. And as I said, you know, we usually close the eyes, but we also have them open when we need to see the teacher, or, you know, if you're wondering if someone else maybe has something that you know that, you know, you don't know that they know, you just want to peek over, it's okay,
Okay.
you know. Okay, so let's try another pose that's a heart opening thing.
Okay.
And we're going to bring the right leg out at a diagonal. You're going to hold on to your big toe with your index and third finger going through and your thumb pressing down on the big toe. And we're going to bring this arm over, and then you're going to inhale wide up, and then exhale down, and inhale up, exhale down. This opens the heart, and there's a lot of heart opening in Kundalini yoga.
So everything that we've done so far has a specific purpose.
Pretty much, yes. But the whole practice in general, you know, is good for the nervous system, it's good for the lymphatic system, and like all yoga, it's good for flexibility and balance, the immune system, not to mention the things that are not physical, like I mentioned about courage and anti-anxiety and things like that.
So what would you say to people
Let's
who want to
inhale
get started?
up.
Okay.
And we'll go to the other side.
Okay. So for people who are intimidated by even like they're like, I'm not going to be able to do this.
Right.
What would you suggest for them? Like, how do they get started? Go to
Okay.
class or try it at home or?
Well, there are videos on YouTube you can watch, and you can get a video, you know, buy one or get one out of the library and just see what it's all about. But I always think the best thing to do is go to a class and check it out, because you never know until you try it.
Okay.
And, you know, yogis are such nice people that there's really nothing to be afraid of, you know. They'll be very welcoming, and as I said, you can really wear whatever you want. It's just, this is the tradition, but there's no Kundalini yoga police, and there's no, like, you know,
You have to wear this
Yeah,
and-
it's nothing like that. It's
So you just
very-
basically need a mat
Yeah.
and comfortable clothing
Exactly.
and a good attitude.
Yeah, just come with a good attitude and, you know, just open. And, you know, if it's not for you, it's not for you, because every style of yoga is different, and some people like the flowing vinyasa, some people like Ashtanga. It's, you know, some people like it all. So
Okay.
you just try what works.
All right.
Hot yoga, whatever.
Right.
Okay, so we'll do this side just to balance it out. Inhaling up and exhaling down, just to open our heart center.
So you mentioned that we have to do both sides. So the balancing is just important because
Yeah, it's pretty good to
feel-
balance the
okay.
body no matter what kind of yoga you're doing. Let's inhale up and then relax.
All right.
And we'll come into a little butterfly pose with our feet together, holding on. And we'll just bounce the thighs up and down to open them up a little.
Now this is obviously like a hip opener. So for people who aren't as flexible and like they're up here, like would they still do this and just do as much as they can, or?
Yeah, I think just do what you can, you know, just be gentle. Always listen to your body, and if you can't do something, you can always just sit in easy pose and just breathe.
Okay.
You know, you don't have to do something that's beyond your capability. And you know, sometimes people do get hurt in yoga classes, and I think part of that is because people go past their edge. It's okay, you know, go to your edge, challenge yourself,
Right.
but don't hurt yourself.
Okay.
You know, I think that's important.
And we have about, just a few minutes left, so I know you wanted to do a few, or maybe we may only have time for one standing pose,
Okay.
so.
All right,
we can
let's
do that.
stand up then.
All right.
And I'll show you a pose that I really like that we do in Kundalini yoga. I haven't
Okay.
run into it anywhere else. So you're going to bring your left foot out,
All right.
And bring your right foot 2 or 3 feet behind, and then just bring your right foot in about 45 degrees.
Okay.
And then you're going to bring your left arm up and make a fist, and bring your right arm over. And then you're going to draw back like you're pulling a bow, like you're an archer.
Okay. And my legs are straight, like at the knees?
No.
No.
You're going to bend
Oh.
your left leg, sorry.
Oh.
And you're actually going to bend it right over your toe so that you can't see your toe.
Okay.
And then you're going to stare out over your thumb. And you're just going to stare into that space.
Okay.
And what we often do in Kundalini Yoga is a breath called breath of fire. So we often would do this during this pose. We would hold this pose and begin a very fast breath through the tip of the nose. It's almost like a sniff. It's like... And okay, is that...
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then we just inhale and come up.
Okay.
And then we would do the other side.
Okay.
You want to do it?
Yes, let's do that. We
Okay.
have about a minute left, so.
Okay, so we'll bend that right leg, the knee over the toes, bring up the right hand, pull back on your bow, make sure your left arm is up, not drooping down.
Okay. It's all about form here.
Yeah.
You know, it's like little small
Right,
changes.
there's lots of little things. And then just stare out into infinity, and you begin again, breath of fire. Okay, inhale and come up.
Okay. All right. That was good.
Yeah.
So we got a little bit of a flavor for both the mat practice as well as a standing position.
Right.
Great. So we have about a minute left. So could you remind us again where we can get your book and where people can find out more about where you teach?
Okay. You could get the book on Amazon.com.
And it's Yin Yang Yogini.
Yin Yang Yogini.
Okay.
And or you can go to your bookstore and they'll order it for you. You could, get it on BarnesandNoble.com as well. And the studio where I practice and teach is in Montclair, Aquarian Yoga Center, and there's also one in Westfield. And there are other studios that have Kundalini Yoga as well, because it's really spreading and becoming more and more popular.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here. This was great. I like doing that. I like yoga anyway, so I'm glad to.
I can tell that you do yoga.
But it's nice and challenging, so that's great. So thank you so much for introducing us to Kundalini Yoga. And I'm Dustin, and this is Dustin's Kaleidoscope, and we will see you next time.